Hi, I hope this finds you well. This week I've been thinking about the bigger picture and what the bigger picture looks like from God's perspective in the world, nationally, for my family and for me as an individual. Now, over the last couple of years, I've become interested in learning more about art. I'm no expert, none at all, but I have enjoyed learning more about Leonardo da Vinci, for example, somebody relatively well known, or very well known. But just recently, I've become quite interested in somebody that I'd never heard of before, and her name was Artemisia. I think that's going to be the wrong way round. I don't know, but anyway, you'll get the general picture. Excuse the pun. Anyway, she was active in the 1600s, and she learnt how to paint from her father, who was also an artist. And so by the time she was 17, she'd actually created some amazing pieces. But then at the age of 18, she was brutally raped. And the guy that raped her, who was a very unpleasant character, obviously, he promised to marry her, but then he reneged on that. And so her father pursued him through the courts and had him prosecuted for rape. Now, he was sentenced to be exiled. The sentence was never carried out. But for me, the most shocking thing of that was that during the trial, Artemisia was actually tortured by thumbscrews to verify her testimony. So I guess the idea was that if she gave in, then that proved she was telling a lie. Something that is just so abhorrent and you can't imagine happening. But as a consequence, she appeared to translate a lot of that anger and passion into her paintings. She then got married and she had 5 children, but only 2 survived by the time she moved on to Florence, and then eventually one of them died as well, so she only had 1 remaining child. It was a life of tragedy, really. But she painted, and a lot of her work surrounds biblical characters. And to be honest, some of it is very gory, it's a bit dark. It's interesting. But she actually painted one picture that I think has become one of my favourites. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it there. Can you see it? But it's called Mary Magdalene in Ecstasy. And it's a study of what it is to be fully in the presence of God. You know, when you're just so enjoying his presence and that total abandonment. And there is such, it's just so beautifully done that I think at some point she must have acknowledged God in some ways. Anyway, she was very much overlooked, and there weren't very many, if any, women artists in those days, and she remained largely unknown until the 1970s, when a lot of her work was rediscovered. And since then she's become the subject of countless exhibitions, documentaries and films, and people are really appreciating her talent and her work afresh. So, you know, in the short term, her life was one of tragedy and of just, completely being overlooked. But then the bigger picture was that in years later, she was studied and appreciated so much, and so many people have learnt a lot from her paintings and have really engaged with the emotions and with her story as well of her life. And I'm doing the Bible in a year with Nikki Gumbel. I did, as I mentioned before, I did the Bible in a year last year, but that was one without any devotions or without any extra bits. So I'm really enjoying this because he's putting the flesh on some of the bones of some of the scriptures that I kind of struggle with. But on day one, when he started off in the book of Matthew, he went through the genealogy of Jesus a little bit. He touched on it. And there was something that I'm sure I've heard, but has never really been something that I've really fully appreciated. And he says, as we read the list of Jesus' ancestors, it's encouraging to see that they include Tamar, the adulteress, Rahab, the prostitute, Ruth, the non-Jewish Moabite, and Solomon, who was conceived after King David's adulterous affair with Bathsheba, as well as so many others. Thankfully, God uses sinful human beings and therefore can use us. Whatever our past, however broken your life may seem right now, God can use you to do something great with your life. Now, you might not necessarily be feeling broken, but there could be an element, especially in present times, of frustration. You know, what's going to happen? Something stalled, something you were doing before that's not, or you were planning that's not come to fruition. Dreams on hold, all sorts of things. And right now in this moment, it feels like you're stuck. But God has a much bigger picture. He sees the beginning through to the end. He knows what he has in store for you, all of what he wants you to do, to be and to accomplish. And the verse that has stood out for me amongst many others in this is, so let's not get tired of doing what's good. At just the right time, we'll reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. And so, you know, it could be that you're at home during lockdown and, you know, the days are long and the same much as yesterday was. But actually, you know, it's part of the bigger picture. These days are part of the bigger picture of what God is doing. We don't know exactly what the end result is going to be. We might be praying for revival, we might be praying for breakthrough, we might be praying all sorts of things, you know. And we don't know, but what we do know is God is in control. God is still on his throne. God sees the bigger picture, and he can bring beauty out of ashes. What the thief came to steal and destroy, he uses. He makes it good. It's, you know, God wins. Can you tell I'm excited here? And so what I want to say to you today is that whatever you're feeling about what today holds, what this time in history holds, if you've got concerns or frustrations, hand them over to God. Ask him to give you a sneaky peek of what the bigger picture is. Ask him to give you a preview, and just to keep pressing in. And if you don't know how to pray, keep asking him how to pray and press in, because I can guarantee that one day we will look back on these days and we will see what part of the bigger picture it had to play. Have a good, blessed day.